Hello and welcome to Seeking 42. In our premiere episode, we're talking about solving problems, affecting change, the myth of changing your life without help, hitting rock bottom and then digging in the ruins of your life to find treasure. We're asking the questions, how do you step outside of yourself to become a better person? Should we be pursuing happiness at all? And what happens when you meet a Green Beret drill sergeant in the parking lot in Boulder, Colorado at 1 a.m.? All of this and more as three guys pursue the answers to life, the universe, and everything. So hello, my name is Craig Merriweather. This is the first episode of Radio 42, and just a quick introduction of what we're doing here. For the past year or so, I've been doing an interview podcast show, and over the course of the year, I've interviewed a lot of cool people, and it's come to me from time to time after a few weeks after interviewing somebody, said, oh, I wish I would have asked this, or something's come to mind. I thought, oh, I wish I could have asked this person this new topic or get their opinion on it. And it started getting me thinking about, oh, what if we, wanting to do a sort of panel kind of a show. And the two people that immediately came to mind to be on this panel are some good friends of mine. There's Morgan Boatman, who is a writer and martial arts instructor. And there is Brad Olson, who is a ex-police officer, psychologist, and PhD in mythology and religion. And myself and Craig Merriweather, also a writer and creator of Depression 180 and the Mind Mastery Blueprint. And that's just a little bit about us, and we'll probably talk a little bit about ourselves throughout these episodes, and you'll get to learn more about us. And this is really an informal conversation. This is literally being done at my dining room table, and you may hear us scoot chairs and put our glasses of water down hard, and we're babysitting a little cockatoo, so you may hear Yako in the background start joining the conversation. But it was just a way of start talking about some issues that we talked about in private and thought it might be interesting for people to hear about. And so the kind of topic I kind of came up with for this first episode is lots of people are talking about change, and one of the big quotes that I tried to understand and live in my life is by Albert Einstein, and he says, you cannot solve a problem from the same consciousness that created it. You must learn to see the world anew. And I thought I'd throw this out there and say, one, is that true? And second, how does one change consciousness in order to change your life? So the quote, you cannot solve a problem from the same consciousness that created it. Is that true?
I would accept that as true. I think what you're basically saying is if you don't know the parameters of a problem, you can't, or if you're stuck in the mindset of a certain problem, you can't work beyond it. So you have to learn new skills to solve problems. If we take it to a very basic level, if you don't know how to change your spark plugs, then you can't change your spark plugs.
Well, it's an easy example. You have to learn new knowledge to change your spark plugs, but what if you want to lose weight? What if you want to, your relationships are in the toilet, and you want massive, not so much weight as physical change, but you're literally going to have to change your ways of thinking, relating to other people, relating to food. You want to get in shape, yet you've never been to the gym before. You probably run into this all the time, Morgan. People say, okay, I want to get into shape, let's do some lessons, and then after 2 or 3 lessons, they don't come back again, because part of them wants to have that fit body, that healthy body, but they're running into that old consciousness that says, yeah, but it's easier just to sit on the couch and watch TV. So how do you change that consciousness?
I think that fundamentally that statement of Einstein's is correct. I think that when you have a problem, you're not going to be able to figure out that problem from within the problem itself, which is why a change in consciousness has to happen. Now, when we talk about consciousness, at least from my perspective, we're talking about something that is really hard to define. And one of the most salient characteristics of consciousness is a sort of irreducible subjectivity. In other words, I don't know how one stands outside of oneself. That problem of subjectivity seems to me to be the problem that we face when we're dealing with problems. And I think that's why we have such a hard time changing things anyway in the world.
Right.
It's very hard to step outside of one's own subjective experience.
It's hard, but that's the incredible thing about humans is that we are capable, and we seek that. I believe we actually do seek to step outside of our own confines, because we know they're confines. We know that our troubles are because we're stuck in those confines, and so we seek out martial arts, and we seek out therapy, and we seek out these things in order. We may say, "Oh, I want this problem solved," or "I want to be stronger," or "I want to lose weight." But I think it really is to, I want to change, not myself. You can't. I don't think you can change your essence, but you can change that perspective that Craig's talking about, so that not only the quote unquote problem is solved, but the perspective is changed enough so that you can proceed in whatever way that those new skills afford.
You said just a little bit ago that we seek to maybe challenge ourselves, learn new things. Kind of goes back to that saying in nature: if it's not growing, it's dying. And I think we get into such routine in our lives. We're not growing. We don't learn new things. You get up on the same side of the bed. You go to the bathroom, you shower, and you wash yourself the same way, you dry yourself off in the same way, you brush your teeth in the same way, you drive to work the same way, you sit at the same desk, in the same chair, seeing the same people over and over again.
I'm not saying that change is not horrifying. I'm not saying that consistency is not comforting.
No.
And I'm not saying that we need to change every single aspect of our lives every day.
Well, no, but I'm thinking that I think there's a certain aspect of ourselves that wants to seek that change and to grow, but I think there's a bigger part of us that wants that comfort and that routine because it's safe.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's animalistic or maybe a part of our psyche that just is afraid of going into that dark cave for shelter because who knows if the bear or the saber-toothed tiger or whatever is in there. But most people, I think, and myself included to a certain extent, would rather stay comfortably miserable than to do the work, and it is work, to change your life.
Yeah, I think it's very hard work, and this is one of the things that ostensibly is the purview of psychotherapy, is people want to come in and change. But again, this idea of change. Yes, we're always changing in some ways. We're always growing in some ways. But developing another perspective from which to view one's life, I think, is a very difficult thing to achieve. A lot of people really sort of believe that they're doing this when really they're just rearranging their prejudices.
Mm-hmm. I think that is because they don't have a goal. They don't know. They're blaming it on our social structure or blaming it on whatever. But we don't have a scaffolding to support change.
Right.
We want to change, and so we watch a different movie on Friday night instead of the same movie every Friday night, and we think we're expanding our horizons. Or we go to church on Sunday and hear a different page from the same book. That's because, like you're saying, we're rearranging our prejudices, and I love that. It's like that little tile game where, okay, if we change the order, it's a different picture.
Right. Well, and we think, right, that if we change, we should change to something. It's like we have an idea of who we should be out here somewhere.
Well, that's another thing that...
Right?
That's right.
And that seems to me to be very problematic. That I don't think we should have an idea.
Most of our socially offered goals are non-goals. They're, be like this religious figure or be like this athlete, this zillion-dollar athlete. But that's an interesting question now. In my line right now, people come to me and they want to learn what they think they know is martial arts. You know, for the first few years, we give them a little punches, we give them some kicks, but what I'm really working on is their ability to move, their strength, their flexibility, their mobility, these things that they didn't know were part of the process. The way they think, the way they interact, the way they think about themselves. And these things are hidden underneath the obvious martial skills. At large, society doesn't offer us that. It only offers us what we think we want. So we go to the movies and we see what we expect. I mean, we're superficially surprised by the ending, perhaps, but there's only a handful of stories, and these patterns are offered to us, and we're sated by them. We go, oh, okay, the world is like this because the story went like this. It's a very complicated. I don't know if there's a society or culture that has ever wanted or ever offered a support for real change, because that's its own death warrant.
Well, I think it's destructive to the society.
Right. So a society as an entity is not going to say, okay, all you guys do exactly what you want and fulfill your whole, your deepest desires. Because just like any political system, that's going to dissolve that entity immediately. But back to what Craig was saying about the comfort getting out of bed of the same side, and there is, I don't know, like you said, if it's quote unquote animalistic or whatever the strange term used was.
But
I see.
Was that we have a basic
What's that?
desire or let's say sort of a ingrained pattern to reduce as many variables as possible. And that's what led us from being completely nomadic, perhaps, to being from hunter-gatherer to, farmers.
Right.
Is that, okay, if we can predict these seasons, if we can make these resources more reliable, then we can survive more easily.
well, they basically get into different habits. So their habit before was survival was maybe going out and hunting and gathering, and then they got into the habit of planting and things. And the same with our lives, or same with, this is the way you're training the body for martial arts. Is you got to get in that habit that when you see a punch coming this way, your arm or your leg has to go this way in order to block. And you do that over and over and over and over again, week after week, year after year, until it becomes a habit within the body. So in order to change, and that's why every day our lives are going on, we have the habit of, here's how we're brushing our teeth, here's the habit of how we, and if you have a habit that you don't like, you have to replace it with another habit.
Initially, you may replace it with another habit, but you initially have to realize that the habit is not doing for you what you think it was doing.
Right.
It's fine to have habits. They save a lot of time.
Yeah.
Stupid to get out of the bed on the other side just for the sake of breaking habit.
Right.
Or, if you want to have time for other things, you're going to have to incorporate some habitual activity. You're going to have to remember how to drive your car every day in order to get from home to work.
Sure, but you're in a habit of relating to people in a certain way. And that's why your relationships suck. That's why.
So the question is, what can move you out of habit?
Yeah, or to create a different habit. You're twice divorced. Your new girlfriend is starting to see the patterns, or you're starting to see the patterns with your new girlfriend, because you have these certain habits of relating to people, and your coworkers, and to your clients, and to whoever. And if you were,
but is being twice divorced a bad thing? Is it what he wants to change, or is it that pattern is just his nature?
Well, I don't think the pattern's his nature. I think, it's our nature to breathe, for the heart to beat and things like that. But in terms of relating to people, I think that's a habit you could change.
Where does the motivation to change come from?
Well, it's that your life sucks.
But
You're looking at your life and you're saying this is why at New Year's everybody goes, okay, I'm going to the gym, and you go to the gym in January and you can't get into the gym because it's packed. Go to the gym in February and it's fine. You can find parking spaces, you can find a locker. There's nobody on the equipment because nobody's there. It's like they tried it for a few times. It went so far past their comfort zone. They said, well, that's enough for me. And so they back away because they couldn't get out of that habit of.
Okay, your question, what's actually surfacing is why change? Why should a guy who's divorced twice or a dozen times, why should he change?
Because you ask 95% of the people walking down the street, and you say, are you happy? Do you like your life? And they'll say no.
Well, let's move it out of the realm of some theoretical guy on the street. What makes you change? What makes you change, Craig?
Okay, well here's a good one.
You both have done it.
I've done some change. I'm in a change one right now. I've packed on 20 pounds that I want to lose, and there's a million reasons why I need to do that. Whether just comfort in my body, and I'm not extremely overweight, but I'm not a tall guy and I'm not a big guy, so that 20 pounds I can feel it, and my clothes don't fit as well, and I know that to feel better, and I know my family's on both sides of my family, diabetes is huge. So I need to reduce the sugar. I need to let go of the weight. Otherwise, I'm going to end up like most of my family and have diabetes. And so there's great reasons for me to lose weight, and yet I don't, because I have to replace that habit of eating.
He didn't ask you why you didn't change. He asked you a situation where you did change.
Where I did change? Oh, well, no. The reason I'm bringing this up is because the reason I noticed I wasn't changing is because I haven't replaced the reward system with something. I get a reward from eating sugary stuff.
Diabetes? That's interesting.
No, that's the long term. That's the long term not reward. The reward I get immediate gratification from eating sugary stuff or salty stuff or fried stuff or whatever.
Are you a politician? You're still not answering his question. You're like, oh no, this is what I actually meant. And you
and so
said the same thing.
Well, you answer the question.
All right, I will. A year and a half ago, or maybe it was up to 2 years ago now, a friend of mine emailed me and he said, go to this website, goruck.com. They're having one of these in my town, Boulder, Colorado. That's my friend speaking. And we're going to do it together. And I went to the website and it was insane. Completely something way outside of my comfort zone. A 12-hour event where you're loaded down with bricks and this special forces guy is telling you what to do for 12 hours, which consists of carrying logs and carrying people and going through bodies of water all day and all night. And I thought, this is crazy. I mean, not just euphemistically crazy. It's almost the definition of some form of insanity.
You're pushing your body to extreme limits in this short amount of time.
Beyond limits that you thought you had. All right? So the Green Beret devised this insane event, and they had done a few before. This was still early on in their evolution. So I emailed them back after doing just a little bit of research. I didn't want to know too much about it, and there wasn't that much information available in it. And I said, no way that I'm going to miss this. So I had to get up to Boulder. We had 6 months. So as a martial artist, I knew that I would have to train up for it. I knew what I would have to do to feel comfortable going into it. I didn't know exactly what the event was, and I didn't know, any specific goal figure that I would have to, for instance, be able to walk 20 miles or 100 miles. So that kind of goes back to your point, Brad, about it's good to not know the goal because You're not going to be able to achieve. I'm not going to be able to become a Green Beret in 6 months. But I knew that, I'm reasonably fit and I got a pretty good attitude about stuff usually. And Dan will be there, the friend that invited me. And, so I said, let's go for it. Now he's up in Boulder, so he's training independently and I'm training independently. I get the bricks and I start running through the forest and right away I start feeling different because this is something that I haven't done before. I've trained in martial arts, but that's all inside and very combative and very confrontational, and it's a set of skills. This was just getting better at what I thought I would have to get better at, which included just loaded runs and being able to breathe after running and sustained activity. So flew up there, and we meet at 1 a.m. at this park in Boulder, Colorado, and we're ready. We're as ready as we're going to be, and there maybe a dozen other guys there in the middle of the night, and this crazy guy comes driving a rental car into the parking lot. He gets out, we sign our waivers, and we have no idea what to expect. We thought, okay, well, we're near the forest, we'll probably hike off into the woods. But he gets us doing push-ups and crawling on the asphalt in the parking lot right away. We're shouting and we're learning about. Well, the real curveball was that it turned out to be an exercise in team building. All right, so all these very fit young men. I was by far the oldest guy there, and they're all these super alpha guys, and they're trying their hardest, and they're out in front, and we're, really crawling on our knees, army crawl, low crawl on the asphalt, scraping up our knees, and guys are losing their water and losing their will to live, and
just listening to the story makes me lose my will.
And I was totally cool with it. I thought, okay, this is I signed up for it, and so I was committed to it. And that the change has already happened, or already happening, and the change is snowballing. Okay, I'm seeing something in life that I haven't seen before. I said, okay, I'm going to go down this road, and I trust that they're not going to just out and out kill us.
Signed a waiver, though.
Now, here's the next thing. 45 minutes into it, I don't know, it could have been 45 minutes, it could have been 2 hours. My friend who invited me up says he's had enough.
Wow.
So
2 hours into a 12-hour thing.
It probably wasn't 2 hours, but
Right.
he's telling the Marine off. He's like, said, I'm not part of this. I'm not going to be part of this. I'm not going to play this game. And I'm on the ground in the asphalt, and I'm shouting at my friend, telling him, you better get down here. You better come back. You brought me up here. But he took off. And a few minutes later, another guy voluntarily withdraws. And at that point, I realized, okay, people are leaving this. My friend left this, so this is my new family for tonight. And I was so upset. I punched the guy next to me. He was like, "What did you punch me?" I said, "Man, that was my friend that just left." At that point, we became this new unit, this new family. And this is an aspect of GORUCK that I had not expected. You hear about some of the obstacle challenges, and it's, try your hardest, and it's a race. It's a very individual experience. This is a team building experience. And more than all the scrapes and bruises, all the aches and pains, and all the, really hard things that we had to do. That's what I came away with. Since then, I've done 2 others, and what it's taught me is that really people can do anything when they work together. But there's a certain way that people need to work together to accomplish things that are harder than what an individual can do. Now that's the inside change. The outside change is that I've developed a game based on Go-Rec experience that I've played with various groups that I'm associated with. Now I'm developing an online program for changing your perspective on life. So that's something that has really changed me on many levels.
Well, you're pointing to something that I notice frequently in the consulting room is people aren't moved to change through the weight of data and research. People aren't moved to change.
Everyone knows that cigarettes kill you. Everyone knows that when you're fat, bad things happen.
What are you looking at me for?
Because you're fat.
People aren't moved to change because you make a well-reasoned, rational argument for it. Right? There's not enough persuasion in the world to make people change. People change because they have an aesthetic experience. And this is what you had.
An aesthetic experience. What does that mean, aesthetic experience?
It's an experience of beauty. That's what moves us. That's what changes us.
But he also got immediate gratification from looking online and seeing that he likes to challenge it. You like to challenge yourself. You got it like...
Not particularly. Not like that.
You obviously must have, because you signed up for this thing. You saw the challenge and you said...
Okay, there was something attractive about it. There was something interesting about it.
Yeah.
But there was...
I mean, because I see that as like, I want to get healthy and stuff, but it's like, that doesn't even interest me. and I'm not even like in a challenging...
I didn't do it because I wanted to get healthy, though.
I know, but I'm just saying, you got immediate gratification, even though the what you call it, contest, the event was 6 months away, you saw a challenge to yourself, mentally and physically. You're going to have to redo some aspects of your training. And then when you got there, you actually had to change your habits in relating to people. This wasn't a one-on-one kind of bout, martial arts bout.
What you're talking about is exactly what Brad said doesn't work.
What?
Because the data, I looked at it, and the argument wasn't there. There's no reason I should do it. There was no...
I'm saying the reason you want to do it is because you got immediate gratification. You got that dopamine hit of hey, I get to challenge myself and do something new, which you obviously enjoy doing.
But what if there's something else at work?
But that wasn't the change.
But
that was the initiation of change. The change happened.
But see, what if there's something else at work that we don't even know about, that we don't even recognize, that when we see something and it attracts us for whatever reason, something else is going on that we can rationally describe, right? And it draws us to it because there's something that experience is offering.
That we don't know it's even there yet.
Right. We haven't been able to grasp it yet. We don't even know that it exists. The experience that you had that was meaningful to you was not found in the literal physicality of what you subjected yourself to. It was found in the emotional connection that you made with these other people. Right?
Yes.
This is what changed you.
And that's why seeking more of that, and maybe that's the reward aspect, right, has become part of my life.
Exactly.
Going every Saturday and exercising with my
you
friends.
have what in my realm of life you call a soulful experience.
Yeah, I like that. It was, definitely.
But
on the outside, it was, just awful. But on the inside, this was happening all the time, going, wow, I can't make another step, but there's someone to help me.
Yeah. And see, and now, even though you know what the experience is going to be like relatively, you kind of know what you're going to be up against, you still want to go back.
But each one, it's because you can walk the same path, but the people are different. Those exchanges are different. Those experiences are going to be different. Like when we did it in the winter, totally different. And when we did it when, you know, the leader was like this high-speed, low-drag guy, that was a whole different challenge, where we had to help each other even more. So you can play the same game, but each game is going to be different.
Right.
And it has to result in an experience that's more than just
I made it through.
the literal elements of the game.
Yeah.
You see, there has to be something meaningful that you experience as a result of that activity, regardless of whether it's, you know, pushing your body to the maximum degree that you can, or writing a well-crafted sentence. You have to have a meaningful experience of it in order to have that aesthetic seizure that actually changes individuals.
And which obviously your friend did not have. And your
He
friend,
didn't give himself a chance.
Your friend was the one who talked you into it, and he did, I'm assuming, the same 6 months kind of training that you did. I mean, he was building up to it.
Yeah.
It lasted maybe an hour, maybe less, maybe more. Did you ever talk to him and find out why he...
Oh, yeah. I talk to him regularly.
And did he ever explain why he...
He didn't want to do it.
Well, and this is, you're pointing, Craig, to something that I think that's really important. We often don't have these meaningful changes in our lives because we're not willing to go into the place where common sense and everything rational in us tells us not to go. And I would argue in most cases, if not every case, that you have to go into those places where you absolutely do not want to be in order to have any kind of a change.
Okay, but wouldn't Morgan's experience imply that you need somebody there to help you?
Well, that help comes in all kinds of different ways. I mean, sometimes just the world itself is offering that. When you have, if you were to contract diabetes, or you had a heart attack, or if you were the victim of a violent crime or something like that, well, there's those opportunities right there. So there doesn't always have to be a well thought out, structured way into this. Often there's not. And this is one of the failings.
It's a world full of people, so there's always people involved.
Yeah, and this is one of the failings of our culture, is we think there has to be a program for everything.
Well, I think that one of the big failures of our culture is that, and especially for men, is that we have to do it on our own. It doesn't count otherwise unless we do it on our own. And I think if you look at any aspect of your life, you have help in some way, whether it's from a friend or you go out and seek the help of a coach or...
The means can be, you can get help to the means, but the change does happen inside.
True, yes, but I think a lot of, just through my own experience, I always resisted seeking advice and help and working with a coach or getting a team together, because I thought that would show weakness, or it would be it wouldn't count, whoever's keeping score.
I was the same way. Not because I thought it would show weakness or it wouldn't count, but because it never occurred to me, frankly. I think that's a very I think that is a social weakness.
Yeah.
Even though I've worked in production of film and video, where clearly you do it with a team, with people who specialize in different aspects of the. That's it. That's not really a team. That's a series of specialists.
Let me put on my mythologist hat.
Okay, do that.
Because this is the pervasive myth of our culture, especially for men in this culture, is this myth of the rugged individual.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
That it's I can't tell you how many men I've seen in therapy and they have a favorite movie and it's something like Shane, or it's some John Wayne movie,
Definitely,
or something like that, right? And it's this idea that to do this properly, to do it the right way, to do it the culturally sanctioned way.
The only way that occurs to you.
Yeah, you have to do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's simply not true. In fact, it probably can't happen that way.
And that's what the epiphany of Go Ruck is.
Yeah.
That's the deep epiphany.
But even look at our superheroes, Batman, Spider-Man, all these guys are doing it alone.
Deeply disturbed guys.
Well, yeah. But
Everything.
and now we seem to be getting into this different aspect of, or even like the Schwarzenegger or the Bruce Willis movies. It's always Die Hard. It's that lone guy against the 5 or 6 bad guys.
Well, it's taken over political discourse too. I mean, you've got people who on the very conservative side of politics are saying, people have to do this themselves. You have to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. And most of the guys who say this, they're born on third base and they think they hit a triple.
Yeah.
And
Like that.
and it's it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and yet they have this big machine underneath them with lots of supporters and donors and people giving them help all over the place.
But still, the spotlight's on them.
Yeah, well, it's like the best director Oscar. You win the Oscar for best director. You look at that film, and there's got to be at least 300-400 people on the credits who helped him make that movie, including people like the cinematographer, director of photography, all these people who.
But you notice what I realized is that that's not a team. That's not a team structure. That's all those people are under that director. What I learned in a real team is that people work together. It's not a pyramid structure. It's not a linear structure. It's this very unusual
Organic
or amorphous. You can't even say power structure. It's just a structure of strength that you can construct and build, and I've learned how, but it's not familiar.
Right. Well, and that's, I think, due to our education and what it is to change, and that you need to do it by yourself. You have to be the lone hero, the anti-hero.
And our indoctrination.
Yeah.
And what keeps a group of citizens at their weakest is a bunch of individuals, right?
Yeah.
Social change happens when people get together and say, okay, we all agree that this needs to happen.
Yeah.
But so the whole myth of the rugged individualist seems to empower the individual, but it weakens us as a I don't want to say nation because
it weakens us not only culturally, but it weakens us individually.
it does. But the myth of it seems to empower us individually, but it weakens our interconnected strength.
Yeah. Okay, so to affect change, does one then need to find that team and
You don't find a team.
Well,
that's an illusion too. The director he goes through this book and he goes, okay, I want to work this guy. I want to work with. That's finding a group. You have to build a team.
Well, in effect, you didn't build a team. You found one in Boulder, Colorado, sort of by accident.
No, I built it. Built it very specifically under guidance because the cadre, the leader, knew what it takes for a team to to stick together, to create itself. But we created it. We knew each other were part of this stronger structure. Then another time I can go through the steps that are necessary to create a team.
Yeah.
But no, the team was not offered. None of us knew each other except a couple of guys here and a couple of guys there.
Right.
I think it always begins serendipitously. That we fall into this. We find ourselves.
It can be very structured though too, like the Go-Ruck. It's like, okay, we're going to build a team, and we did.
Well, from the standpoint of the guy who organized that, this is true. But from your perspective, this was serendipitous. You didn't know these people. You didn't. And I think, arguably that's the nature of existence anyway. There always does seem to be some underlying order that we know nothing of. And we fall into it, and then we're able to see, oh, there is some order here, perhaps. And then we're able to sort of, create some similar kind of thing in our own personal lives. And we draw people to us or find them, search them out. But I don't think anything is ever really initially planned. None of the really meaningful experiences of life are planned or expected. At least that hasn't been my experience.
Well, then how do you get to a point in your life and say, well, now I need to plan how to get my relationships back in order? You wake up one day and you say, okay,
How often
my
does that work?
Well, but
You can head a direction, but
you have to have some sort of vision of what you. No, you're not going to know how it's going to happen or even what the end results are. But you know that, okay, I need to get healthy. I need to fix my marriage. I need to get off the alcohol. I need to affect this change. I need a support team around me, whether it's working with a coach or working with a friend or a sponsor at AA or something. But it's that vision of how you want your life to be. I mean, you could say I don't. You probably know what you don't want, but I think where a lot of people get tripped up is they don't know what they do want, and so they don't have.
But they want something different.
Yeah, if you don't know where you want to go, any road's going to get you there, right? So if your dream is to go to Alaska, you know how to get there from where you are. Get out a map. You can go this way. Maybe you can take a boat. Maybe you can take a plane. But you know how the end result's Alaska. How are you going to get there? Who knows? But if you just go, I feel like being somewhere else. Well, yeah, you can go anywhere then.
Yeah.
But you might not be happy because what I really want is forest, and here I am in the desert.
So you think you're really going to be happy if you want to go to Alaska and you go to Alaska? Is that going to be the end of the story? Is that going to be...
I don't know, unless you're running from something, but...
You're still the same guy here as you are in Alaska. And what I'm thinking is that you don't have to know that you're going to Alaska. You think you want to go to Alaska. You may head to Alaska. But what if you wind up in Brazil instead?
Well, that's fine, but I was using my journey metaphor, but yeah, you want to, I think when you get right down to it, you just want to be happy.
But you don't know what's in Alaska. You don't know what's happening. You don't know.
I've read books. I've seen the brochures.
Well, exactly. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're a fat idiot.
Oh my God. Well, happiness, I think, is one of those problematic ideas. I think happiness is probably the thing we shouldn't be in pursuit of. Happiness, the root word, the root of hap, happiness, that hap word, it's the same hap that's in mishap or happenstance, or happiness is mostly about luck. And this isn't something I think we should necessarily be chasing after. I think there's other things like an experience of meaning in one's life or significance in one's life that are probably we could spend our emotional capital on a little more wisely. But I don't think we have the kind of agency that you're describing, that we can say, all right, I know what I want to do, and I know this is going to be good for me, and now I'm going to put together this team, and it'll get me there. Mm-hmm. I've never seen that work. Not in the 6 years I was a cop, and certainly not in the 25 years I've been a psychotherapist. And my profession is all about putting teams together and helping people change their lives and all this kind of stuff. And frankly, I just don't see it working.
Well, okay, your experience as a police officer, you're dealing with, maybe not the most intelligent, brightest, and nicest people in the world. And
you're so much happier than they are.
No, I'm just saying that they're stuck in a routine of
Dude, you're stuck in the same shit they are.
What?
I don't know.
I'm saying
what you need.
What?
Does carrying bricks around in the snow sound like something that make you happy?
No.
It made me happy.
Okay, but
Those horrible moments where I couldn't hardly walk anymore, I was happy.
That's fine.
I thought I was going to die.
Okay.
I actually thought I was going to die. Those were the moments I felt, man, I'm doing something. Those are the moments that changed my life, and that was the epiphany that society has removed that from us.
And you keep going back because you want that again. Would that be correct?
And
That's why you're-
I've taken some of it with me.
Yes.
What I'm trying to say is that happiness is not the gold Cadillac and the full bank account and
No.
the perfect relationship. It's a sense of purpose.
It's a sense of purpose, and what I'm saying is that if your life
Happiness
is
is
falling
not
apart,
being in Alaska, it's getting to Alaska. And maybe winding up in Brazil.
okay, forget the metaphor. But the point is that we deserve to be happy in our lives, and whether you get that through what you're doing or what however somebody else is going, you need to have a vision.
Happiness is not. You deserve. Well,
Yeah, you do.
argue that you deserve to be happy.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
It comes from just being human. You don't deserve to be miserable. Why would you deserve to be miserable?
You deserve to. You don't deserve shit. You make the choice.
No.
What books have you been reading?
No, I'm not saying no. I say you deserve to have the right to be happy. I'm not saying you should have happiness fall upon you like a light mist. But I'm saying you should be able to have happiness in your life, and that's going to take work and effort on your part and help from others. But you deserve
So
to have it.
what about the guy who had to sleep
I'm not saying-
outside last night?
He deserves to be happy. I don't know that he can be happy sleeping outside.
Wouldn't that be the goal?
To not sleep outside?
No, to be happy sleeping outside.
No. He might need to change his life in order to be happy. Change his
So
habits.
you're convinced that you have to change your life to be happy. That's
Unless you're happy already. If you're not happy now,
so to change
You're
your
gonna-
circumstance to be happy.
I don't know if that's necessarily circumstance, maybe you're probably just your way of thinking. You have to look
Okay,
at,
so the guy sleeping outside, the homeless guy sleeping outside, could be perfectly happy.
yeah, he might be enjoy his lifestyle for all I know. I haven't talked to him.
Would you be capable of being happy if you had to sleep outside last night?
No, it was cold last night. I've spent many a night outside sleeping, but probably last night would not have been my favorite.
Interesting.
But I'm just saying that you will have to affect change in your life. Look, if you got a problem in your life, this goes back to the Einstein thing. You have a problem in your life that's making you miserable. The goal would probably be to want to be happy, to have some joy in your life, to have some ease in your life. And to do that, you're going to have to change your consciousness. Because the consciousness you have now, the life you have now, is creating this perpetual misery. And so you will have to
Okay,
make some
so what you
changes
just
in
said,
your
you
life.
got a problem, but then you have a way of looking at the problem. So you're saying two things at the same time. You're saying, okay, I got to change the problem, and I got to change the way to look at it. What if you just change the way you're looking at the problem? Then there's no problem.
Okay, so you change your consciousness.
Or you can change the problem, and then you come up with some other freaking problem.
Okay, well, yeah, but that's the whole Einstein quote. If you change the problem, fix the problem. This is why this comes back to the whole twice divorced girlfriend is getting mad at you kind of thing, because you keep affecting the same
Which
consciousness.
guys like that love, by the way, and they feed on that.
Well, maybe
So
maybe
totally
that's where
happy.
I
I don't know.
don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
But look, and this is the problem that I kind of alluded to at the beginning, that this extraordinary subjectivity of consciousness. You have this problem, and the problem's not going to be solved by the same consciousness that created it. So the problem's unhappiness. If the solution is happiness, that's not changing consciousness. That's still working within that same consciousness that created the unhappiness. Because the opposite of my unhappiness is happiness. And those two things aren't different. They're the same, they're two sides of the same coin. So you're not really changing consciousness by saying, okay, if I can just figure out a way to be happy, I'll have solved this problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So really what has to happen is that you have to step outside of this happiness-unhappiness dialectic altogether.
And how do you do that? You do
Well,
that by
what
getting
is
your
it?
ass kicked.
Oh,
It is.
okay, what do you mean by that? Stepping outside.
You have to get. You
He
can't.
already said. He said you can't argue it.
I'm talking to Brad.
He said you can't argue it. You can't offer data. Something beautiful has to happen.
What does that mean? Something beautiful has to happen.
Yeah,
What are
you
talking
can't even
about?
tell that. You can't. No wonder
You
you.
have an experience that moves you.
Okay. Okay. No, hold on.
So that means you gotta step outside your regular.
I'm not talking to you anymore. There's okay. My marriage is breaking up. I have. This is not me. I'm just affecting
Just say somebody else, because that's
somebody else. Okay. Okay. No, not me. This is okay. This guy comes to you, and his marriage is breaking up. He's in financial. He's almost destitute. He's filing for bankruptcy. Borderline.
All right, he's got a lot of problems.
How does he change his life
Well,
and become happy because he's miserable?
the change isn't going to. What's going to make him happy is not saving his marriage. That ship has sailed. By the time he comes to me, his marriage is breaking up. There's nothing he's going to be able to do to change that. There's probably nothing he's going to be able to do in the next 6 months to avoid bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're left with is sort of sitting in the debris of your own life. And there's a way to do that that is that gives one thoughts and feelings and ideas and experiences that one has never had before. And that's the whole business of change, is to how do I have an experience that's so novel that it moves me out of this space I traditionally occupy. Saving my marriage isn't going to do that.
Well, usually
Because then I'm going to be back in the same space I was in as this marriage crumbled and fell apart.
usually it's hitting that rock bottom before they wake up and saying, "Okay, I need this change," but they're still a week later going to be unhealthy, in debt, and miserable in their relationships. So
Yeah.
how they start crawling out of the hole?
Plato told this story in the Symposium. It's about this guy who had a farm, and every spring he would go out and he would hook up his ox to the plow, and he would go plow this little few acres that he had. And when he got to a space in the field, his plow would hit something, and it would knock him down, and the ox would run away, and the whole day was lost. Chasing down the ox and brushing himself off, nursing his scrapes. And this happened every single year as long as this guy lived. And one day the guy dies, his son inherits the oikos or the farm, and he's out plowing one spring, and he comes to that same place where his father hit this thing, and it knocked him down, the ox ran away. But rather than trying to just get up, move the plow and find the ox and reattach it to the plow, he started digging. And Plato says he uncovers this a chest, and he opens it up, and there's all this treasure inside, drachma and rubies and things like that. And Plato says that the moral of the story is where you stumble, there your treasure lies. And that's the idea. When you're sitting in the ruins of your own life, you have to dig into that and find the treasure that's there, right there. Not in the alteration of that debris, not in the avoidance of the catastrophe. You find the treasure that's available right there at that moment. That's what changes you, and that's how you change. I don't think there's any other way to do it.
I think that's a great way to end.
I'm stunned by the silence.
I can't say anything. Yeah. That's a beautiful way to end. We said half an hour. We're almost at an hour, so maybe a good time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Anything else to add? Final thoughts?
I'm intrigued as to where this will take us. I think it'll be interesting.
All right. signing off, and I
Thanks,
guess we'll see you. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.
Indeed.
All right.
That was spirited.